And Caitlin has the ability to make up to $500,000 just in WNBA wages this year. So, of course, they're just looking at a base which is collectively bargained. And actually, it's low because she's the #1 pick. She'll make a little more than that. But she also has millions and millions of dollars of endorsements. She's actually, because she declared to become pro, her endorsements are higher in dollar value. She has a global platform now, not just a U.S. platform. So she's going to do just fine, as will the top players in the league, as every league does. Also, there's comparisons.
Picture this moment clearly. Phones buzzing, emails piling up, coffee getting cold on office desks. Somewhere inside league headquarters, spreadsheets are being opened and reopened because the WNBA just woke up to a situation no one saw coming. Reports suggest the commissioner is feeling the pressure. Nike, meanwhile, is smiling all the way to the bank. And right in the middle of it all is Caitlin Clark, quietly changing the game without saying a word. One advertisement, one rollout, and suddenly, the entire league is forced to confront an uncomfortable truth it has avoided for years. This wasn't just another commercial. It shattered expectations, broke records, and exposed a gap in branding power that can no longer be ignored. What was supposed to be routine turned into a wake-up call about influence, visibility, and money. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about business. It's about marketing. It's about who actually moves the needle and who doesn't. And the shift happened faster than anyone was ready for. So stay right here, because what's unfolding next goes far beyond sneakers and highlight reels. This is a full-blown shakeup, and once you see it clearly, you won't be able to unsee it.
Last February, I sat across from Cathy and asked how she planned to address the officiating issues in our league. Her response was, well, only the losers complain about the refs. I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. And in that same conversation, she told me players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them.
Normally, Christmas morning is supposed to be the one day of the year when sports executives collectively agree to stop panicking. It's the annual truce. The moment when they pretend to be regular people. Sipping hot cocoa, opening gifts, and absolutely not spending their free time rehearsing corporate statements in the bathroom mirror. But in 2025, that illusion didn't last very long. Because while fans were unwrapping presents, the WNBA front office walked into Christmas Day carrying a level of tension that could cut through wrapping paper. This wasn't holiday cheer. This was quiet stress disguised as seasonal calm. The kind where everyone smiles for the camera but keeps refreshing their email every 5 minutes. Behind the scenes, nothing felt peaceful. Every notification buzzed a little too loud. Every headline felt a little too sharp. And every conversation seemed to circle back to the same uncomfortable realization. Something had shifted, and no one had planned for it to happen like this. Christmas was supposed to be a pause. Instead, it became a reminder that the league's biggest challenges weren't waiting for the new year. They had already arrived, gift-wrapped and impossible to ignore.
These are all things that women supposedly hear from our supposedly patriarchal society. The whole ad is one long feminist trope. But the richest irony, I think, is that Caitlin Clark is in this commercial. Clark has actually been doubted, criticized, mocked, belittled, hated on. That's true in her case. Except men are not the ones doing that. All of the hate towards Caitlin Clark, literally all of it, is coming from other women, most of whom are playing the same sport. Her haters are the other women in her league.
On the surface, the season looked like a dream come true. Ratings were up. Viewership jumped. Headlines kept rolling in. For the first time in a long while, the league felt unavoidable. People were watching, talking, and arguing about the WNBA every single week. But behind the scenes, that success came with a cost. Because while the public saw growth, the league offices saw chaos. Every week seemed to bring a new controversy, a new debate, a new clip circulating online that reignited the same uncomfortable argument about physical play. What was fair? What crossed the line? And who was being protected or not protected by the league? Comments from players, coaches, and analysts didn't help. Many of them landed with the subtlety of a brick through a window. Once said, they couldn't be taken back. Each quote fueled another round of outrage, another wave of think pieces, and another internal headache for league leadership trying to keep things from spiraling further. So while the outside world celebrated momentum, the inside world dealt with tension. Growth was happening, yes, but it wasn't clean. It was loud, messy, and emotionally charged. The kind of success that forces an organization to confront problems it used to quietly ignore. And that's when it became clear. This season wasn't just exposing the league to new fans. It was exposing cracks the league could no longer pretend weren't there.
Cathy Englebert, the commissioner of the league. Doggy, Peter, Monica, let me say for the record, you should resign. You need to resign. Period. The reason I say that, Doggy, is because when a player, any player, but especially one of that magnitude, attacks you publicly like that, that weak-ass state.
The plan inside league headquarters was actually very simple. And simple plans are the only kind that ever survived December. The idea was to let the news cycle drift away. Let attention move on to the NBA's Christmas Day games. Let the NFL dominate the conversation with its late-season chaos. Let anything take over the headlines, as long as it wasn't another debate about the internal politics of women's basketball. For a brief moment, it almost worked. There were a few quiet hours where it felt like the noise might finally die down. And in a season where silence had become a rare luxury, that probably felt like a small win. Families were still waking up. Coffee was still brewing. The sports world was half asleep, scrolling lazily, not fully locked in yet. Then the notification hit. And it could not have landed at a worst possible time. It didn't come from the league, which at least would have been chaos they were used to managing. It didn't come from a player quote or a controversial foul clip. It didn't even come from a highlight account posting another slow-motion jumper. It came from Nike. And when Nike speaks, it doesn't whisper. It flips on a spotlight and doesn't ask who's standing underneath it. The post was short, clean, polished. A commercial starring Caitlin Clark. And in under a minute, it managed to do what most scandals fail to do. It didn't just spark conversation. It quietly rearranged the power structure. At first glance, the idea that a sneaker ad could cause executive-level panic sounds ridiculous. But that's only if you think this was ever about sneakers. It wasn't. Shoes are just rubber, fabric, and marketing poetry. This was about something much bigger. This was about control. Specifically, who gets to decide what the WNBA actually is. For decades, the league has operated under a very specific philosophy. On paper, it sounds noble. The league comes first. The collective matters more than any individual. No single player is supposed to grow larger than the organization itself. The league is the brand. The players are the pieces. That philosophy has shaped everything from marketing decisions to media messaging. And it's not accidental. It exists to keep owners comfortable, players relatively aligned, and sponsors confident that the product won't spiral into chaos or turn into a daily reality show. Commissioner Cathy Englebert has been closely tied to that league-first approach since day one. It's essentially her seatbelt. Her job isn't just to promote basketball. It's to protect the structure, to keep the ecosystem stable, to make sure growth happens without anyone feeling like they're losing control. That approach works beautifully. Until it doesn't. Because eventually, the spotlight finds someone it likes more than the institution that installed the lights. And when that happens, the balance shifts. Nike didn't ask permission. It didn't coordinate a careful rollout designed to protect internal harmony. It simply made a decision. And in doing so, it sent a message that was impossible to ignore. This wasn't just another player. This wasn't just another endorsement. This was a declaration of belief. A signal that one athlete could anchor an era, whether the league was ready for that reality or not. That's why the reaction felt so intense. Not because of jealousy. Not because of marketing envy. But because the ad forced a question the league had been trying to delay. If one player is this valuable, this visible, and this powerful, does the old league-first model still work? Or is the league about to be shaped by the very star power it spent years trying to keep evenly distributed? That's the real tension. And once that Nike notification went live, there was no putting the genie back in the bottle.
Nike's finally going all in on Caitlin Clark, and it happens with a Christmas Day commercial drop. Really a fantastic ad all around, and speaks to the appeal of Clark, and speaks to, I think, the efforts that are going to be put into her from a marketing standpoint, not to mention the importance of 2026, the season for her and the season for the WNBA, when you dial yourself back a second or pull yourself back from the immediacy of the ad and realize,
Caitlin Clark turned out to be the perfect storm for this system. And that's exactly why it's struggling to contain her. She didn't arrive like most rookies, slowly earning attention and learning how things work. She showed up with a massive audience already in tow. Millions of fans followed her into the league, not asking for permission and not waiting for an orientation on WNBA traditions or internal pecking orders. They came for her, not the structure around her. She also plays a style of basketball that translates instantly. You don't need deep knowledge of the women's game to appreciate long-range shooting. A logo 3 looks impressive no matter who takes it. That kind of play cuts through complexity and speaks directly to casual fans, the ones leagues desperately want but rarely know how to keep. And then there's the corporate side. Clark didn't come in treated like a prospect figuring things out. She arrived backed by brands that see her as a rare marketing opportunity. Not a nice addition. Not a future maybe. A once-in-a-generation asset. The kind you build campaigns around, not careers you ease into. The league can talk about collective identity all it wants. It can repeat the idea that no one player should ever be bigger than the whole. But that message starts to fade when one individual is generating numbers, attention, and revenue that drown out everything else in the room. That's the uncomfortable reality. The commissioner has framed this moment as a time of leadership and growth, which is what executives tend to say when things are technically successful but emotionally volatile. It's the language of calm while standing near something that could spread if ignored. She's also tried to shift the focus toward the ecosystem, because ecosystem is a safe word in sports business. It sounds organized, manageable, like something you can oversee with charts, meetings, and a few well-designed panels at a conference. But ecosystems don't stay balanced forever, especially not when one element suddenly hits with the force of a meteor. Nike's commercial didn't land like a normal sports ad. It didn't follow the usual formula. There was no fog machine, no slow jog through shadows, no dramatic stare into the distance paired with vague talk about grinding or belief. It felt intentional, precise, confident, and that's why it hit so hard, because it didn't just promote a player. It declared a shift. It suggested, without saying a word, that the center of gravity might already be moving. And once something like that is visible to the public, pretending it isn't happening becomes impossible. That's where the tension really begins.